Property Management Committee meeting to order. Starting with the approval of the minutes of the July 19th, 2023 Facility and Property Management Committee.
I'll make the motion that we accept the minutes.
Okay, I just wanted to ask a question, regarding Harrison Street, second floor clarification. I believe it's second page, we talk about Mike Elder assured the committee for absence of a lift would not prevent us from using the second floor. My question was, does that mean for child care patrons too, as well as office space?
Correct, and it would be, even if we would use it for pets, the requirements of ADA is that disabled people are afforded the same services without barrier. And human services plans would be that if they have, if they need the space, the second floor rooms would be prioritized for fully able people to be housed up there, and they would reserve the first floor rooms for people that need the more accessibility.
Okay, so we'd have 15 rooms or units.
Correct.
Rather than 8.
Correct.
Okay, good.
We could use, yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody gonna second it?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I have to abstain.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries 4 with 1 abstention. Moving on to correspondence shared by committee members. Anybody have anything?
I went out to the dedication of that plaque out there by Parkview that we had talked about for years. It was very nice, big, large one. I personally still would have put it up farther, but I think it's in a very nice place, because my thought on that is, unless you know, or you're gonna go on a walk down there, you probably wouldn't go see it. But there's quite a few people that showed up down there. There was historians, there's some of the people that probably remembered it somewhat. There was some older people that they brought out of the home and all this and that. And it was very good. Nice presentation, nice plaque. Mike, you did a real good job. Your name was mentioned several times there, and they said they wish you were there, but
Unfortunately, I had a problem that cropped up at 3 o'clock that I had to go address, and I couldn't get there.
but anyway, it's finally done. It looks good. So I commend your group for getting it done, and also the other one that put it in there.
Question, is it located south of the road towards Parkview, the parking lot, Parkview parking lot?
Go ahead.
It is located south of Butler Avenue,
Yeah.
by the sidewalk leading to what the Master Gardeners, I don't know what we call it anymore. It used to be called the Keller Garden when the
Yeah.
pavilion was there.
That might actually be safer for nursing home patrons in terms
Yes.
of not having to cross the road, but then you have parking north of the road too, right?
Right.
Okay, well,
I agree with you on the safetyness, but I don't know as beautiful as this
yeah,
is,
it's not,
people aren't gonna see.
right,
When
it's
I go
not
down
that,
there unless they know
it's not that heavily traveled.
Right.
And it's 10 miles an hour speed
Right.
limit.
Anyway, I guess my main thing is it's done.
Done,
Yeah. So let's go. So we can take that off.
Anybody else have any other correspondence? I just have a question maybe for Mike, or went to the famous or infamous fireworks show on Friday, and Mike, did the facilities department have anything to do with setting up, taking down, or everything done with parks? Any updates
We
with that?
provided equipment,
Okay,
but we did not have to provide any staff.
okay. Good deal. I have for anybody that
So,
did or did
out
not
of
go.
curiosity, I heard it was pretty spectacular.
It was very spectacular, and there's people from all over. I talked to people from Madison, Milwaukee in line. The one complaint that I would have is, and it wasn't on a county issue, that is probably, there wasn't enough food trucks and stuff like that, because the lines were so long that people were just walking out, but it was packed, and the show was absolutely spectacular with the drones that they had there. It was very, very neat to see the kids had a good time. So, yeah. So, anybody else have anything? All right, moving on to public input on agenda items. Mike, we don't have anybody on Zoom.
Nope, nobody's on Zoom.
All right, well, we'll move on from that. Discussion and action on naming room 120 in the David Albrecht Administration Building for Sue Ertmer.
Brought up before by Supervisor Eisen, I think a month or two after, talked about the David W. Albrecht building. That he thought that Susan should have one, which she probably should very much so. We do have in place now, things saying qualifications and all this and that, so this is why I wanted this on. If we're going to do this, I think it's time. She's been out of office now for a while. You know, some of the people think that, well, maybe you should wait until they passed away. Well, I don't think so. I mean, to be honored, somebody, I can remember, I don't know how many were there for David.
I agree.
He was very proud to have that building named after him, and Sue, as far as I know right now, is in good shape and all that, and I think it'd be an honor for her. And I would, maybe we should ask her, because I know what
She is back, working for, or,
on the committee.
on the committee.
Right. Appointed, yeah.
40 years of service,
So
highly regarded.
I think that she could be contacted to make sure, but if she does want it, I will go ahead and make a motion that we go ahead and name room 20 the Sue or Susan Ertmer. Room.
I'll second.
Absolutely.
All right. A motion's been made and seconded to name room 20 in the David Albrecht Administration Room in honor of Sue or Susan Ertmer. Any
I just got, just so you all know, anyone that was at David Albrecht's thing,
I will.
his family went ahead and brought that food net in, the county didn't do that, so.
Yeah, and then what a
Right,
spectacular
but I mean-
thing they did. It was,
If she wants to do anything, it'll more or less be on her own, it won't be the county that'll be putting anything on, so.
well, the
Okay.
county might have had coffee or something, but
County didn't have a thing,
nothing.
maybe water they had there, but other than that, no, David Albrecht's family did it all.
Yeah. It was quite the thing, and it was quite the honor,
Right.
so,
I think maybe the clerk's office might have brought some dips or something, but other than that,
yeah.
the family brought all the food and that in.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on, discussion of responsible bidders, contractors and county role. Mike, or any updates, any?
Yeah,
Application updates?
Bob Damon and I met with Paula Van Ness, who used to be the Director of Public Works for Appleton. And she talked with how she handled contractors. And it is basically another one where we just log their performance, and then they have a process, and she just sent us their pre-qualification process, where at the beginning of the year, people get pre-qualified. So Bob and I have to look at that and see how we're going to implement that, where their qualification statement, ours says, how long have you been in business? Have you been sued? Have you ever not completed it? Theirs goes further by saying, how many employees do you have? What equipment do you have? So like, if we would hire a contractor who says that they're gonna self-perform the work, and they say they only have 3 employees and a pickup truck and shovels, we can say, well, you don't have sufficient staff or equipment to do this job. We're not going to accept your bid on this project. So we have to work through that. We had a small cohort meeting afterwards, and we did discuss some of the contractors that we've used, and we've had different opinions of some contractors that we've used in the county. And that kind of throws up a flag that says, because we have to institute this across the county. And highways can't say that this contractor is no good, and we then go and say, oh yeah, they're great. And that's kind of what we had with one of the departments saying, oh, well, this contractor that we've had problems with, oh, they do great work for us. And that's the same thing that happened to us up at the childcare facility. Is that I told them that contractor was not, we had issues with them, we need to watch them. And both Allegheny County and UWO said, well, we've used them in the past and have done fine. Well, we're still having problems up there. They haven't finished the landscaping yet, and here it's August. So, you know, it's a challenge to make sure that we're going to be consistent across the county. But I think we'll be able to come up with a process that we'll be able to start documenting the people and having a pre-qualification statement or requirement that will be more definitive than what we've used. And we may be able to weed out some of the contractors that provide poor service or are non-responsive. But it's going to take a lot of documentation on our side. And then, once again, Paula was saying, you know, if you disqualify somebody, you know, maybe you have to say, you can bid our jobs, but we're not going to give you a job over $100,000 because you can't handle $1 million job. And if they do well on the $100,000 job, then you might allow it to creep up a little bit. You know, and if they don't do well on the 100,000, then you back it off to 50,000. But it came down to, you know, we asked her, you know, my comments of, you know, the first thing they're going to say is, how long am I disqualified? What do I have to do? And her way around that was limiting the scope of projects that they can work on. So that worked pretty well. She sent us their applicant's pre-qualification statement and any other information she had with it. So I just have not had a chance to take a look at that yet. But I think we've got a path forward.
And what about the recodification? Because that was the kind of the discussion was to hold off on any ordinance or anything right now, because we're gonna put this in the recodification of the county and then we don't have to do anything. Where's that at?
That's been delayed a little bit. I've gotten a draft copy of what the contractor did, and I have to take a look at it. There have been some problems or changes that need to be done. So I think that's not going to be done as fast as what everybody had thought it was going to be done.
And this form that you're talking about from Allegheny County, you said it could, I don't want to say disqualify contractors, but limit them and then.
Yes.
Okay.
So like I said, you know, the one contractor that you and I know about, I don't think they have a lot of permanent employees.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, we can look at it and say, you don't have the equipment or you don't have the experience in this,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not going to accept the bid for them.
Okay. No, go ahead, Joe.
That's all done ahead of time, so they don't go through the whole bidding
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. Well, you know, they can still go through the whole process if they want to submit a bid, but we've told them upfront that we're not going to accept it from them.
So how do you deal with like 279 bidders on this that have pulled the plans?
Anybody can pull the plans.
Yeah,
You know, but then when it, you know, comes to submitting the bid, then somebody submits the bid and they're like, you're, you know.
And if they submit the bids, you know, we have to have it all documented up front that they don't meet the criteria. And then we just had a bid now for, oh, what the heck did we do? What went out for bid? Snow removal. And the contractor didn't submit their bid in the format that we wanted. And we just said, you know, we asked you for a cost for how much it would do to remove the snowfall here for a standard snowfall. And it's like, okay, it should cost you $150. This other contractor just said, well, we're gonna just charge $80 an hour. Well, how many hours are you gonna be doing it? You know, if you're gonna just drag your feet and have somebody out here with shovels instead of a snowplow or whatever to do the parking lot. You know, yeah, you're gonna charge me $80 an hour, but it's gonna cost, 300 hours for us to get it cleaned up. So, we disqualify people like that after they submit the bid because their bid doesn't conform to what we want. But we'll also be able to disqualify people if we've gone through and we say, you don't have the equipment, you don't have the people. That would be where it falls under, you're not a responsive bidder.
So is it getting better on getting bidders? I mean, because we had a problem with bidders. I mean, we like all of a sudden we only got one bidder.
No,
It's not.
it's slightly getting better. But it's just like I tell you with the supply chain, is that, my counterpart in Appleton or Outagamie County, we talk frequently, not, if not every week, at least once a month. And he's having the same problem with bidders that we have. And it's just, it's just how much work the people have, and they're having the same problems getting tradespeople that anybody else is.
Can I ask a question on that?
Huh?
Do you know that the private sector is experiencing the same issues as the public sector?
Yeah.
Sector on bidding, so that they may only get one bid on their projects too, if it's a private job?
Let me just tell you, I'm having some windows replaced on my house.
Good.
I ordered the windows. I'd have to go back, and my wife says we ordered them in 2022. And I think we ordered them in January. My contractor drove to Iowa in his own truck to get the windows because the manufacturer was not going to deliver to the area for another 2 to 3 weeks. So, they're having, and I talked to him about, who's going to do my windows, and he's having problems getting people to work for him to put in windows and doors. So, he's experiencing the same thing, and I'm just taking that, if I can't get a guy who I've already paid for the windows to get him here, he wants to get the windows done, because I told him I'm gonna do it, the other half of the house. So I think the private sector is experiencing it. There is, my son's got a friend who's got his own electrical contracting firm. He is advertising for people left and right, and he can't get skilled people to do the work. He's turning down work because he doesn't have the people to get the work. So I'm, just from those two things, I'm, without doing a real scientific survey of the private sector, I'm gonna say we're all experiencing the problems with materials, and we're all experiencing the problem with people in the trades to do the work. And it's, a friend of mine is a mason, and he's booked out for work for 2 years. And literally, I asked him to do my patio in 2016, and he finally got to it in 2018. So it has been a long process where, people don't want to do the hard, dirty manual labor.
There's dovetail on some of that, yeah, just hearing nothing but, some contractors saying they got a backlog of 1.5 to 3 years worth of work mostly in the private sector, so.
Is the pay good for those jobs?
Well, pay is a
That's
real
what you look
balance.
for.
I'm sure my mason could have gotten the work done a lot sooner if he paid his guys $100 an hour.
Well,
But
no, I don't mean that, I'm just saying.
that's what I'm saying, the contractors have to balance what they can pay their people,
Yeah, I know.
because it's gonna price them out of the work. So I'm going to say the pay is what the pay is, what the market can afford. And, I'm hearing that there's other places now, they're just jacking up the price. In fact, I just saw an article in my newsfeed yesterday that people are saying that they want $80,000 to start for some work. And it's like, wow, that's $40 an hour. That's a lot more than what people are saying, get them up to 15. So, it's a real balancing act for the contractors. And it's a real challenge to get kids interested into going into the trades. You know, and I'm a firm believer, not everybody needs to go to college.
Oh, I agree.
Um, But everybody's encouraged to go to college.
You just think with supply and demand that wages would be higher because you could charge more for a job.
Depends,
if
you
there's
just have
less
a
people doing it.
lot of outside factors and
Yeah,
in all of that. You know, you have a lot of people still undercutting people and it's,
Oh, I know.
it's,
Cutthroat.
yeah.
but yeah, Mike, you hit it on the head. It's cutthroat out there. You know, there's the challenge between union shops and non-union shops. You know, I have mixed emotions about with Wisconsin getting rid of the prevailing wage. But that kept it from being a race to the bottom. Because somebody's gonna undercut somebody else. And then the way the bids go, you're kind of forced into somebody who either read something in the specs that they know if they get the job, they're gonna come in with a significant number of change orders because there's room for it. Or they're gonna find a way to cut corners and give you a poor quality project because they're saving on the labor and they don't have the skilled people. So that's a real challenge, and I asked Paula with this, I said, have you considered, or did you consider, disqualifying the low bidder? Because that would prevent somebody from just chopping the knees off of everybody and coming in with a real low labor cost. That is a double-edged sword because the airport terminal came in significantly under what we had estimated. And the contractor, I think, is a good contractor. I've not heard problems with them. Their quality was fine. They've stood behind their project. They fixed things under warranty. So if we'd have disqualified the low bidder, he'd have been the baby thrown out with the bathwater.
Mhm.
But I've been in when I was in the private sector, there are people out there that will just come in extremely low and then find ways to cut corners. And it's usually in quality, and the owner usually suffers down the road.
And it's,
It's no different than my industry.
yeah, I just want to circle back on why we're having this discussion and this is being brought up is that Mike has expressed, at least in the 4 years that I've been on this committee, that there's been issues with certain contractors and he can't do anything about it because he has to take the low bid according to the state statute. And so, it's our job to establish policy to make sure that the county and the taxpayers are in the best interest. Because that's what hadn't been happening with a few of the contractors. So it's up to us to figure that out, in my opinion, how to best serve our community, because that, according to everything that Mike was telling us at this committee level, that a certain contractor was, cost of the taxpayers, I think I remember the figure of $40,000 that they weren't putting the locks in the doors. That didn't allow the patients in. He had to supply extra supervisors in there, when in their contract you have to supply a supervisor on site, so that took away folks from the facilities committee to babysit this contractor out there. And so how do we work towards a better solution here? So hopefully we're on the right
I think
track.
we're on the right track, and I think it's gonna be a challenge to get all the departments on the same page.
Mhm. Well, wouldn't that be the way of doing a countywide ordinance and
I think
that would take care of that?
ordinances they're laws. There's something that there should be some way to enforce it and some way to penalize people if they don't. I think if we do this like a policy,
Mhm.
like solid waste has a policy, or there's a resolution, and, I'm gonna mention that Mary Ann, maybe a policy needs to be written like what was done for the naming, for all of the solid waste to go to our landfill. You know, there should probably be a policy that, you know, is something that the department heads have to follow, that can be enforced by the county executive, rather than, you know, who would enforce it as an ordinance. You know, usually the sheriff's department or planning and zoning enforces it as an ordinance, and there's fines. I don't think we want to fine a department for not following the policy, but I think we would want the county executive to hold it over the head of the department head that they're not following policy, and it's reflected in their evaluations, you know, or in their employment. You know, I think that would be a more effective way of doing it, rather than like an ordinance, because it's in the code of ordinances that I have to do things for HVAC and electrical and plumbing at the parks. It's like, that really doesn't need to be in an ordinance. You know, if I don't do the plumbing, who's going to, what's the penalties? You know, so I think we need to look at what ordinances are, what policies are, and we've discussed in this committee before, is that we have a book of ordinances, and now we have a book of policies that the county board has put forward that probably don't fit into what the definition of an ordinance would be, but we want it, this is how the county wants to do business. And then it gives, you know, the county executive a hammer for us.
But if you did an ordinance, that would take away the excuse of, okay, now the airport is included in here, this is included in here, it's kind of what, with the initial conversation, we're
Yeah.
saying, if we come up with something, it shouldn't just be for the facilities department, it should be something at county-wide, right? That would make more sense.
Yeah.
So a policy wouldn't necessarily accomplish that, but an ordinance would.
That's a legal question we gotta throw to Mary Ann.
Mhm. And then I just will follow up with when Mary Ann and Laura, right? Laura was here that time.
Yeah,
She had stated that some of the emails that you have between that contractor would that would essentially be able to, you know, disqualify them, and not only for our county, but for other counties. And the examples that were given were, you know, somewhere in Mauston and something that was a bad contractor over there. They, you know, ended up costing the county or the city, you know, a couple $1 million. Well, then they documented that, and then New Lisbon or something said, well, hey, whoa, wait a second here. We don't want to, we don't want to utilize these guys. We don't want problems. So that documentation gave them the legal right to disqualify them on that. So
we're working on the documentation part of it. And then we'll get some answers on ordinance or policy.
good deal. Anybody else? Moving on. Discussion on the human resources building elevator controlled modernization.
That started on the 14th, and removals, I think, are scheduled to be done middle of next week. And then they will start the install of the new equipment. So hopefully by the end of the first week or so in September, it should be operational.
I actually talked to the guy. Yeah, I happened to be going into the building and he says, yep, it'll be all done by the middle of September.
You said first.
I said after the first of the week of September.
Yeah, so, but that's what he told me. He said he'd have everything done because they're constructing everything inside and everything, just, you know, so that part wasn't just the part.
Yeah.
But they're in full swing of doing this right now, so they should have that complete. It might be, he said it might be sooner than that.
Yeah.
But, it's just, but that, so.
Well, one of the problems we've got is we gotta do a weight test of the elevator after we get all the controls done.
Right,
So that's trying to get the state rep scheduled in to do it, and sometimes they're a little bit cooperative, because they're gonna say, well, we're not in that part of Wisconsin right now, so, you know, we'll be there in a week. So, they contracted out to the last time I think I saw it in Veritas. They do the inspections and stuff for the state, so. Yeah, we will get that expedited as fast as we can. We've laid it on pretty heavy to, Capelli and Dietrich is the prime contractor. And we've laid it into Kone, who's the elevator service contractor, that we've waited too long for this to be done. But, they're fully aware of it and they're gonna expedite as fast as they can.
Anything else on that? Moving on to the discussion of building assessment study.
That, they are planning on having a report to me the week of the September 4th. I had hoped to get it on the September special orders meeting, but I think that agenda is pretty full. So I'm gonna have to talk to Tom and the county executive to see when we could get it on. I think it might be a longer presentation, that if you have a full agenda, for September, I don't know that we can get it on the agenda for September. But it will be here that we can start working on it, and I will definitely, I think, be able to share it with you, for the September facilities committee meeting. So they are just wrapping up the final reports and getting our, they call it a dashboard. We're gonna have access to a computer program that will have all of the recommended deficiencies and their severity, on a dashboard that we can start picking away at it and getting it cleaned up and addressed. And some of our projects have been held off because of this. We don't want to, do something out of order. We're close enough to getting a report that, like some of the remodeling projects we've slowed down on, just because, let's see what the condition assessment says before we start investing a lot of money into the building.
You know, with Kinstry, are they in ESCO?
And where?
Are they in ESCO?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
and ESCO, do you want to, energy,
service or something company. Yeah, they are, I think they're the only one that I saw on the website that is really a big name or is really on it. It was on a purchasing consortium. And it was McKinstry and one other company that was like on a blanket purchase order for governments to use. And the other company was not as skilled as they were.
mhm.
It was a smaller company.
So, yeah,
I can't remember what ESCO.
ESCO, energy saving contract, I don't
Yeah.
remember, I can't remember a company,
I
but
looked up, but
they, they'll come into the buildings, whatever, I guess in this case, like a municipal building, and then say, okay, your HVAC is bad, we'll front you the money on to complete that project, but you're gonna pay us back with the energy savings that you get.
yeah. Well, it doesn't pop up real quick. So,
You're happy with them? That was a good,
yes, I'm very pleased with them. And I think we're gonna get a good report. I think it's gonna be, when I say good report, I think it's gonna be complete, you know.
Do you have any idea what the costs of maintenance are gonna be over time? Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna tell you. The rule of thumb in the industry is 2% of your replacement value per year is what you should be spending on maintenance upgrades. So the last time I took a look at what our insurance carrier said our portfolio of facilities was, it was $143 million. So that's like $3 million a year we should be spending on maintenance and upgrades every year to keep our buildings going, so that at the end of 50 years, they have another 50 years to go. the way we do budgeting, it's kind of hard to really pick out how much the county is spending towards the maintenance.
Mhm.
And what I can't find with that rule of thumb in the journals and books that I've read is whether that includes capital improvements and ordinary maintenance. If it's just capital improvements, we might be close to that. But if it's capital improvements plus ordinary maintenance, then we're not, I don't think we're close to that. So, and the last time I looked at the $143 million was probably 5 years ago. We've changed insurance carriers and the information that we get out of them is not quite in the same format or now. It's probably significantly more.
So, in a cost benefit analysis, will that be part of this in terms of, or will you make the evaluation in the discussion?
They are going to, they're going to give us a broad picture of saying, you know, this building is gonna cost this much. You may consider replacing the building or consolidating the building in other facilities that have space. We haven't done a space needs assessment. So it's, we're gonna get the beginnings of what we should be doing. They're going to say, like, this building has, I'm just gonna pull out a number, $500,000 worth of deferred maintenance. The building's worth, you know, $12 million. Okay, it's probably worth it to keep this building and make the fixes. But operationally, does it make sense for us to keep the building? That's gonna be something that we have to look at next.
12 million replacement cost.
This is just, don't quote me, I'm just saying, you know,
Market value.
you know, the market value of this building's $12 million. You got $500,000 of outstanding maintenance repairs. You know, that should,
That means you could sell it for 12 million?
yeah, but we had it on the market for 12 and we couldn't sell it.
So it's not really market value, it's more.
Well, it was market value, but nobody wanted to buy it.
So it's more like disposition value would be less or some type of.
To put it this way, this is zoned light industrial. We're right next door to neighborhoods on 3 sides of us. Well, yeah, 3 sides because we got the quarry. And I don't think anybody wanted to put anything light industrial in here because they knew it's, you know, the neighbors would complain.
Okay.
So, you know, the building, you know, if you would look at the value of the building, the replacement cost and everything is probably, you know, they came up with $12 million when I first was here 20 years ago. So it's probably more than that now.
Replacement cost, but not if you sold it.
Well, what
You would get that.
we probably wouldn't get it because we couldn't get it 20 years ago.
I don't know if this is for Mike or for Tom. Does the board have to approve anything about this study? You start talking about taking it to special orders.
No. It would be just informational for you. And then the county executive and I and the finance director and other department heads will start coming out. We're going to use the report as a basis for the capital improvement plan.
Good.
You know, so that, you know, a building addition at this site doesn't overrule replacing roofs at these other buildings. Or, you know, a major parks improvement, while it's a worthwhile project, may be lower in priority than, you know, fixing some of these other buildings. And that's what this snapshot's gonna give us is, you know, here you go. We've got major, like, here, what we've got upcoming is the air conditioning at Parkview is R22. So we're going to have to replace that. And that means we're gonna have to replace the compressors, the cooling coils, and the freon lines that go there, which we've got 5 units, you know, we're probably talking $500,000. So that's a significant project. Does that trump, and I'm picking on parks, does that trump upgrading the playground equipment at the community park? You know,
Can you still recharge R22?
yes, you can,
I didn't know
but it's getting very
that.
expensive.
Yeah,
You know, it used to be under $100 for, you know, a propane bottle size container of R22. And I think it's $1,500 now for one that size. So yes, we've had to, replace Freon and stuff, and it's thousands of dollars to replace
How
Freon.
long will we be able to do that?
As long as there's R22 available. They are not making R22 anymore. So when you decommission equipment, you reclaim the R22 and it goes back through reclamation. They clean it up and then it goes back into the market as recycled R22. You know, and as equipment, if you have an R22 compressor and they have what's called a burnout, that basically ruins the R22, so that gets disposed of. And that means like, you know, I don't know how many pounds of R22 we have at Parkview. But if we had a burnout one of those, you know, it could be 200 pounds of R22 that could have been reclaimed and put back in the marketplace, is now burned and it's no longer usable for reuse.
Does the owner get repaid or
Um,
compensated for the reclaimed R22 or not? At a discount if you replace it?
we haven't replaced one, so I don't know right now.
I was curious, because I had that after my unit, so
They,
I don't think we got anything for it.
It may not be because it costs the money to replace it.
All right,
All right. Good enough, yeah.
yep. Anybody else on the building assessment study?
I was just smiling.
Anybody else in the building assessment study? All right, looking forward to seeing that, Mike. Moving on to discussion of 980 housing project.
It started, we are hoping to have it done late fall. Right now I'm working through the permitting process for the holding tank. So that has slowed us down a little bit. They've got the parking lot all ready to, well, that's what the issue was Friday that I could make the dedication was, there was some concern about where the water was gonna be going from the parking lot. We had to meet out there to basically kind of redesign how we were going to do the rain runoff. And we got that fixed. And so they're gonna make those modifications and then that'll get paved. And then that means that they'll have a safe passage or a safe path for the residents and the service providers to get to the trailer. And then they'll be able to start digging and changing out the holding tank. And move on from there. So, we're all set to go as soon as I can get the information that planning and zoning needs for us to get the permit.
Yes, I have a question, and it's been brought up to me several times here through different board members. There's gonna be 8 of them out there
Right.
originally for so much money. Well, it didn't work out that way,
Mm-hmm.
but it was proved to have 8 out there. We've gone down to 3.
Yeah.
We've never voted to go down to 3 that I know of. As far as the board, it's just done by the county exec. Because he'd taken that money, he said that's all that we can afford to do. I just wanted to know if anybody else remembers ever voting to go down that way.
Well, I thought that, cause didn't he say at one time that if we need to build the other ones, we will?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's gonna cost more money.
But, you know, so we got. So with the county board, the way I understood it is that we have the 8 permitted. And then it's permitted with the city too.
Yeah.
But, you know, as far as the money goes now, we're gonna build 3 now, and if we need 3 later, we can build them.
Yeah, but it's gonna cost more.
Yeah, but I mean,
But originally, we had planned for 6 units, I think, with.
No, we had
the money
planned
we
for
allocated.
more, 12.
12 originally.
No, but I mean, with the money we allocated, we thought we'd get 6 units.
Yeah.
so how much of this? So the money that we allocated. And that's and that's only gonna cover 3?
Yeah, it'll be more than enough for the 3.
But we didn't vote on it.
That's what I'm asking. I didn't remember it, and
I don't think we did.
if it's just that the money was allocated, that's what it is. Because here we go again, I think it's our county executive, but this is the money that's allocated. I'll go ahead and do with what I want with it. Oh, I'm just asking if anybody else remembers anything, because I'm getting asked these questions, well, but I don't think so, but.
Well, same thing up on the board there with the highway project. It was just had to reallocate, you know.
Right.
We didn't vote on that, or we did,
We did
but
vote on it.
after the fact.
Well, that's why it was presented to us first before they could vote on it.
Okay. So in that case.
Yeah, so
in
that
case,
makes sense. So
We did approve it. We had a vote here.
we made that decision on building three on it.
Route 3?
Yeah.
Because that's all we can afford, that was decided by the county exec. Now, I don't know if the original wording and everything of the resolution was up to 8.
Could be.
Or it was discussed as up to 8 on the floor. I don't know. And that's a question I can't answer you for.
And then the other thing you just said is that you'll have more than enough money to build these streets.
Yeah,
Where's that money gonna go, or
That will-
all of a sudden it's gonna go
and
to another
that's-
project?
that's one of the things that Paul Kaiser's working on. Because like, when we did the courthouse masonry repairs. That contractor came in significantly under budget. And the reason for that was, and I asked them how they did that, they said, we're from the southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois area, we want to break into this area for more work. We can make money on it at this cost. You know, you have to take your word for it. We didn't have any, I don't believe we had any change orders with them. And they did it for the cost. So I'm sure they made a business decision on that price. So that money, because of the way our processors were set up, the full amount got put into that project code or that project. And so whatever funds are not used stays with that project until they get reallocated for capital projects. And it's just like, when I come in under budget at the end of the year, my under budget money goes back into the general fund, and then in a roundabout way, it really comes back to my department. Not as an additional amount of money, but it's less money that my department causes the levy to go up. So I believe, and Paul Kaiser would have to explain this better for me. What he's looking at doing is taking the capital plan and saying, for capital improvement projects, we're going to allocate $5 million this year. And then I will give him what our estimate is for the capital project. That will get like segmented over, you know, to this project, but it won't all be added into that project code. It will be like focus on energy, or when we buy things on credit cards, I'll submit our payments, and then that money gets transferred from the big pot to the project, but I won't be able to spend more money than what was authorized for the project.
You
Does
have
that
something,
make
Mike?
sense?
You have some?
Yeah, so in other words, if we're only building the three.
Yeah.
So the significant amount of money had to go up. I mean, as
Yeah.
far as how much it costs to build these things, because we allocated so much money, right?
$1 million.
So, you know, so if are we falling way below that $1 million or?
No, it came out to be about $182,000 a unit. And, you know, even the county executive said, that's really high. And when they took a look at what they're spending for the tiny homes, it was coming out to about $178,000 a unit. So it's really, it's the same problem that we have with this. We come up with an estimate for what a project costs before we get all of the design work and stuff done.
Okay, but 182, that's 6, so roughly, a little less. 5.5. 246, right? It's less than
Yeah.
6. So if we approve 1.3, we should have we should have been able to fund 6.
No, maybe I'm off a little bit, I don't know, but yeah, we could not afford more than 3. So,
Then that'd be a lot more than 182. You're just talking about the buildings itself and no site work and no.
No, it should be, I don't know. I can't,
I just have this question because
Yeah.
I'm somewhat concerned also where this money's gonna go to.
Yep.
So, but
Because
One at a
I
time.
think about that, all of a sudden, some offices and all this gets built and all this and that, and
this is,
well, this is.
This is one where you wouldn't want the funds robbed away from it.
Right,
Forgive me for using that term,
right,
but because you could have more people coming out of
Got it.
Sand Hill,
Correct,
that you
yep.
need to build one
Yep.
quickly.
Correct.
And we wouldn't be able to approve the money quickly.
Yeah.
As if we had it allocated. So is there some way we can protect this one from that happening? You know,
I don't know.
Paul Kaiser is getting into this, cause he told me he said he's gonna be allocating, not just this one, but all of them, so like we don't have that like we had it this last month. Where these were
Yeah.
all pulled out of different things to get that one road done.
and I know I'm gonna, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Go
off.
ahead, no, you can cut me off.
I have a spreadsheet that I developed over the years because, it was very frustrating to me because our financial system only shows you what has been spent
Mm-hmm.
and what has been committed. So that would mean like if we have a purchase order that has been paid fully, it'll show what we've paid and what's left to pay on the purchase order. If you go into our financial system and just use that for what you have for your project, you know, I know that we've got some other things that we have to do, you know, that are potential change orders. So in my spreadsheet, I put in the potential change orders, and that's what happened with the boathouse. Is that my spreadsheet was telling me the potential change orders that we were getting from Radke's was going to exceed the amount of money that we had allocated to the project. And I went down to the county executive and said, we've got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we go ahead with this project and we do these change orders, which the contractor is saying we have to do,
Mm-hmm.
we're out of money. You know, I gotta go back to the board a second time for more money for this project. And the decision was made, no, we're not gonna go back for, you know, this is getting way too expensive for a garage over a pier. So,
I don't wanna mix it up anymore, I just don't want this money all of a sudden say, oh, we built this office up here because we
We
had
got
this
the
money
money.
left over. And we can pull it out of there to go ahead and build an office over there.
the one thing that will help prevent that is, this is capital funds, so we can't create a new project and fund it without approval from you guys. When it's in the operational,
It's not supposed to be, but put it that way.
when it's in our
It's supposed to be.
operation, yeah, when it's in our operational budget, there is more leeway on how we can spend that.
Thank you.
Mike,
yeah, just like what Tom was talking about. So in other words, like this money should stay with this project. It shouldn't be moved around to another project.
The way the system is, it should stay with this project. Because it was all loaded against the project at the very beginning. If the finance department and the finance director and the county executive come up with a different way to show you guys how we're going to do it, then I'm not sure, you know, that's
I know.
beyond my
Not your fault, right?
responsibility, you know.
all right. That was spirited. Anybody else? Moving on to another spirited project, we need discussion on boathouse project.
It's interesting. We have, we have some discrepancies with how it is right now and the way it was supposed to be installed. And, I know I've got a very unhappy architect right now, discussing the problems that we've got that's holding up, putting up the
So,
shell.
and that was a month ago that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and
can you tell us what the problems were?
sure. They put the planks for the walkway, the piers, over the pilings.
I see that.
And the pilings were not supposed to be covered by the planks for the walkway. There was supposed to be a C channel that went there that they could erect the building. So now we have, the designers and I think it's Cardinal? I can't remember right now who.
Yes, I think those pilings for the building down into the
Oh, yeah,
riverbed,
Yeah.
don't you just bolt them to the pile?
yeah, but there is planks for the sidewalk over at the top of the piling.
Right.
So they should have
Cut
been,
holes in that, get them down through there. Do that. You have to get a,
but then I'm gonna, but
you have
then
to
if
get a
we have,
diver down there to.
but then if we have problems on the walkway
Yeah,
and I have to replace planks, there's a building that's holding down the one end. Yeah, so like, if this is the piling, if this is the piling and this is your pier,
yeah,
it was supposed to be like this.
yeah,
So I could put the building right on top of the piling. They went like this,
yeah, I know.
so. It's a discussion on how it's going to be fixed.
What is Racky gonna fix this problem or?
That's what the big discussion is right now.
Are you gonna
For a
get this
change
done
order.
by the end of the, before the,
I'm told it will be done by the end of the.
before the freeze up?
I don't know, just,
Can they short the building?
No,
No, we can't.
no, the building needs to be.
Well,
oh, it's a metal building.
The lift is in already for the boat.
Radke,
Is it-
my opinion is Radke needs to come back and find a way to cut the planks back, anchor them so that you're not walking on a teeter totter,
Yeah.
and then we can put the shell on top of the pilings like it was originally designed.
And that's the only holdup.
That is the only.
Have you
hope.
seen the piling anchors one side of the planes?
Yeah.
Is there a cross member along the piling?
I don't know right now.
Oh, no, there's some, yeah,
So that's what the holdup is. And there's, yeah, it's a challenge,
Another thing for your files.
yes.
Yes, well, that's, yeah, I mean. Can't keep talking about this stuff and then leave it for the next guy and the next, taxpayers to figure it out, right? If you keep having these problems, you gotta come up with solutions, so.
Yeah.
Anybody else on this boathouse? Okay, moving on to director report on department operations, Mike?
One question I was asked, I'll just briefly mention it, our vacancies are going down. So, we're left with 2 custodial vacancies now, and we still have the plumber and the carpenter. The carpenter we're holding off on, because we're trying to figure out what we're gonna do in the future. Are we going to fund a lot of remodeling and type of works? Right now, I think we need to have the carpenter just to keep up the buildings with, doing sidewalk repairs and things like that. So, my intent is to go out for, to post that opening here at the end of the month, and we'll see what's happening. I'm kind of hoping that, what's going on at UWO, encourages some of their people to look this way. I know they have 3 plumbers at UWO. They have 3 or 4 carpenters, and I know they have a bunch of custodians. So, I know I have worked the word of mouth to say that, if you come here, you should not, your retirement won't be affected. Some of your other benefits might be, but
Keep paying that
you're gonna
state
keep your
pension fund.
you're gonna keep your pension.
Okay, good, I refuse.
So, the people that I talked to are kind of saying, well, I think I'm pretty safe here. And it's like, okay, just be advised, these vacancies are here, they're not gonna go. The plumber vacancy, I'm gonna talk to HR and see what we can do to, make that more appealing to people. So,
is the money you're offering more than UWO for this fund?
I don't think so. I believe so.
Yeah,
I know
that's
the
what I
money that we're offering our custodians is like $1 or $2 an hour more. And I think we're either the same or more for the plumber. According to the studies that we've got, we're in the market range for plumbers. I don't know,
Well, that would be something good to,
yeah,
to find out instead of speculate on. If we all of a sudden we're paying less, and then we gotta hire all these contractors to come and do this, small plumbing work that's
Yeah.
costing the taxpayers a lot more money than if we would have said, well, we should maybe pay them a couple bucks more an hour, or whatever, that was, in the long run, in the big picture, it's gonna save people money.
yes. I've given you the project report. I don't know if you have any questions about specific ones.
UWO, I do on that.
UWO,
Three UWOs.
they're no update. They haven't gone anywhere. UWO, Few Woods. We told them, I told them, I've asked them for their testing procedures and for all of their repairs to be done before we commit to replacing them. All the testing procedures I found is that you don't test them with the doors wide open. It's either 6 inches or 12 inches. And I know, Paul Farrell, my counterpart, was there, and he said, if we just lowered the hoods like 2 inches, we met the flow demand. So if, and when I was in college and used the fume hoods, we did not have them wide open. There was enough room that you had to work underneath with your hands. So, that's going on. To the best of my knowledge, they have not gotten somebody in to take a look at the wall structure for the library roof leak. I know we are, working with UWO on the memo of understanding with it. We had a meeting, a couple months ago, I think 2 months ago, with, Allegheny County, and I know their corporate counsel, and Allegheny County right now is having some significant labor issues too. As far as I know, they've got an interim finance director, interim finance director, and I think corporate counsel is the interim finance director. So he was working on trying to clarify some stuff, and where the memo of understanding is a little ambiguous, we're trying to define it more, because like what's a major and what's a minor repair. So that is in process.
Would we be handling major repairs then? as a
Yes,
county?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But it's like, what is considered normal wear and tear? Is replacing carpeting considered, it's a big ticket item, but is it considered like a consumable type? This is something that's normal maintenance, you gotta replace the carpet. We brought up, if you're gonna have us pay a capital project to replace all of your lights with LEDs, but then your operational budget is gonna save, 20%. Maybe that 20% should be applied back towards the capital project to
Called an
recover-
ESCO, Mike.
Yeah, to recover, our capital expenses, because it's not necessarily, it's not fair for me to ask Tom to fund my project and then I save all the money on my electric bill. So we're looking for those kind of things, and we haven't come up with a final document to discuss with UWO.
So an ESCO type situation.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Would take care of
Bingo.
it, right?
Yeah,
Well, I think you have to go to a third party then to finance that. Right? They would, my understanding, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, they would finance the project. So
Yeah.
you get new HVAC in, right?
Right.
They finance that, and, they know that you're gonna have a cost savings on energy of,
Claw
you
back.
know, 10 grand a
We should be
year,
able to claw back.
right? And so then you're paying them back
That's-
the 10 grand a year, 20 grand a year in energy savings.
that's what we're trying to, work through, and it's the issue with like the student center. There's a real concern, I know, north of us on how many students are gonna be there. There's some real concern that we're gonna spend the counties together, I think it's $2.5 million. To redo a cafeteria and some student center when the student projections are where they are right now. And I know the latest news out of UWO is probably causing some concern up north too, on, the whole financial picture of the university. So I don't,
I mean, the regent's directive to
well,
Yeah.
UWO being
the
$18
Jay
million in
Rothman's
the hole.
direction to
Yeah.
deal with the situation at
Yeah.
the local level and find ways to, I saw that article.
Yeah. So, it's, I don't think UWO's projects are gonna move that fast forward. Just because I know Outagamie County's they want some real commitment that UWO is gonna be there for a while.
Mhm.
Not that they spend the money only to have it be abandoned.
What's a while, how long's a while?
I don't know.
Because we talked about this already at
Yeah.
the meetings, we said, can we set it up where we do the kitchen upgrade? Even modify it to be smaller than
Yeah.
what we have now, and then just to get the basic thing done, and then if you leave. We're clawing that back from you,
Yeah.
if you leave within 5 years is the current sort of thing, but
And so far, what we're just getting back from them is, oh, we're fully committed to the facility. And it's like, that's just words in my book. Shelter care, the Silvercrest Shelter Care closed on Monday, so it's now our building. Harrison Street, we've got the stuff going out for bid for, the siding, the roof repairs. So that'll be in process. We've had some minor repairs there that we've taken care of. Let's see. Get the highlights.
I know the evidence garage is, corner garage,
That,
corner shed, I think, the office.
in the accident.
we should have the bid package finalized, I think, this week and go out for bid in like next week. So we should be able to go with that.
Evidence garage, you're not talking about the morgue, right?
Yeah, the evidence garage.
The evidence garage, and that's what's
The
holding
evidence
it up.
garage has been the part of the project that has been slowing us down. And the big slowdown was when they told us that they needed to be able to tow a semi and store it in the parking lot. Actually, the parking lot had to be big enough to store 3 of them. And we had to get a Nolte's tow truck, the tractor, and, up to like a 53-foot trailer off of Jackson Street into the impound lot.
That's the sheriff's, but the sheriff's is what's holding up the.
But can't you gain access from the north?
That's what we're doing, and, solid waste finally said, okay, after I told them that, hey, we're not gonna be driving through there every day, we're gonna have a tractor and a trailer, and we're gonna call you up and say, we're coming through, and,
Would they leave their fence up with a gate, you'd have to open the gate every time?
yep, it'll be locked. So, but that required now, we have to do the site work, and we have to get the survey done, we have to do a driveway from the end of their parking lot to the impound lot. So, that slowed us down, and, originally the building was.
So why wouldn't they let us come off of Jackson? Because it's owned by the city.
Limited access highway,
It's a limited access highway.
you can't gain access off a highway.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
I knew it would be so simple.
yes, it would be.
That's why that resolution you had on that access was such a major issue, it could have opened a huge can of worms.
Yes. If we would have argued this harder, it could have opened up a big can of worms to this site also.
Yeah,
So, we've got it all worked out. Talked to the civil engineer last Friday or Thursday.
that's a way better solution.
And we've got it worked out. Because actually Highway Y is limited access too.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, really?
yes,
But not to the degree that the state highway is.
yes,
Yes, sir. It's not-
we couldn't put a new driveway on Y. In
Yeah,
between the
You have to
transfer
use
station,
this, you have to use it.
Yeah. we gotta use that driveway.
That's our highway, isn't it?
Yeah,
Why? It's a county road.
Don't ask me, you know, I talked to the DOT engineer and he just said. No, we can't get you access off of Jackson. And,
I understand Jackson.
and he said Highway Y is also restricted. I don't know how, why, or
it's pretty narrow and you'd have to build a left turn lane probably to get in.
That'd be the county.
don't know, I always thought it was the county road, we'd be able to do that, but the DOT says, no, you can't do that.
Because it's in the city of Oshkosh.
Well, no, the city of Oshkosh. The highway commissioner. Technically can grant access off of county roads. Because it's in the city of Oshkosh, they can say, sure, you can put a curb cut off the road, but we're not gonna authorize the driveway from where you come off the road. To your parking lot.
There you go.
That-
Oh, lordy.
That's the argument that we had with the 980, because
Yeah.
we wanted a separate driveway off of Y.
Mhm.
And, you know, the highway commissioner said, it's in my rights to grant the driveway access. And the city came back and said, no, because it's in our, once you cross the right of way, it's in our jurisdiction, no, you can't have a driveway there. So
How the highway department get their building? Driveway.
that was built when I think it was probably still the town of Oshkosh, and then it got annexed into the city. So, it's amazing the hoops that you find that you have to jump through for some of these projects.
Hmm.
So that should be moving on.
Okay.
Everything going to USDA.
I've got the paperwork all done. Today I gotta send it down to finance and just see if they have any questions or comments on it, and then get John to sign it, and we can send it in. And then we'll see if they find other things that I missed. But it's getting to the point where I'm ready to tell John, I'm tired of this project. I've done it for 2 years. I've been rejected 5 times. Just tell them to find someplace else.
How's anything with the budget, anything we should be aware of?
No, not yet. I submitted the budget, the
Yeah.
county executive did not give us a target levy or levy target to go for, so I put in what I think we need. And I'm not exactly sure how the process is going to work, but I do know I've got to talk to him about some things. So I don't know how it's gonna work, Andy.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I know we're doing we were going to that,
Criteria-based budgeting.
yeah, and that's still in process, but it's probably not going to, it's not gonna be fully implemented this year. Because it's one of these things, just like when I did our computerized maintenance management system in 1998, I thought it was a great way to go. And over the last 25 years, it's like, I wish I'd have set this up differently when I did it. So they want to make sure they have this set up well, so that it's not something that we end up having a problem or having to change midstream. So it's going along.
Is the department head supposed to talk it over with the county executive first, their budgets, before it even comes to committee?
I think so.
And are we gonna do that this year where we discuss it with the committee before, because we didn't do that last year?
I don't know. I know I'm supposed to discuss it with him before it comes to the committee. I'm not sure how, he probably has said something, but it's, I didn't write it down, so I don't remember the exact procedure that it was gonna be.
I think that'd be the best effort in spirit of transparency.
Yeah.
So. All right, nothing else on the budget. moving on then to suggestions for items for the next meeting agenda.
I wanted to float the idea to the committee about working on a resolution that would require the county to obtain an appraisal on property acquisitions ourselves, or an appraisal review if we accept someone else's report, like the seller's report, the
Yeah.
property we bought.
I know when it's been property that I've been responsible for buying, we've gone out and gotten an appraiser to appraise it.
But a clear policy where we would
Yeah,
need to do it, because, you know, there's pitfalls by accepting work for another that's, because we're really not the client in the report.
yeah,
So we don't have any authority really to even read that report and use it in our workings. So I guess if this committee's amenable, I'll work with legal to come up with a resolution that would require an appraisal or an appraisal review when we purchase property, and maybe even when we sell it if it's needed. And that way we get a clearer picture of what we should be paying before we get it under contract, or, you know, are working at the 11th hour on a building acquisition like we did Harrison Street. If we have limited time to make a decision, and we have to accept someone else's report,
right.
you know, so I will work on that if you think it might be something that would be beneficial.
I have no problem with it. I think it's good, but when you write your resolution, if you're thinking this committee's gotta look it over, you're gonna have stated in there, because when you
Yeah.
say just to have one, does the county executive just have to look it over, or like when we bought on Harrison, does that have to go through Dr. Topol? and-
We're the committee of jurisdiction, but,
You know, I'm just saying, if that's what you're thinking of, make sure that's worded in there, because that's what it's gonna have to say.
okay. And then I thought, you know, next 2 or 3 months or whatever, it's not pressing, it's just, you know, maybe after budgets when we get to it or something. Even whenever legal can work on it. Okay, and that's all I have on that.
Well, are we gonna need an update on, we approved that, so we probably would need an update on the sewer room. Hopefully that would come to our September 24 meeting. So I'd say 5. I guess we're doing 6,
Hopefully that'll be just
Yeah.
a completion.
7, 8, 9.
Agreed. And then,
And
can we
then-
discuss the appraisal?
Yep.
resolution before we
Yeah,
on the
I,
agenda?
and like I said, when you guys came in, I don't know if you're all here. If you want to ask me questions and it's more than a simple 2-sentence answer, then it probably needs to be highlighted as a bullet point under my report or as a separate agenda item, if it's gonna be a significant amount of discussion.
Is that project done? Yes or no? Then-
Yeah. Or like, you know, I have 5 vacancies and they're coming down and we're advertising this. You know, that could be fine, but if we're gonna get into a major discussion on some things, then, or if you think we might get into a major discussion, or you want to get into a major discussion, then we have to have a bullet point or a separate line item on it.
So do you wanna do that for this resolution?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This isn't Mike's rules, just so you all understand that's not Mike's rules.
No, I guess it's state law.
Yeah.
You know, so.
It'd be like some discussion on appraisal policy. So cold in here somewhere over there. Anybody else? Anything else for the next meeting? 27? Yeah.
27.
You were Mike.
Yep. Yes, so our next meeting we have scheduled will be 9/27/23, 9 AM. At right here. With that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
So there's no paper